Welcome to round 2 of the Maxxis FIM Enduro World Championship. We're in Portugal this time out. The spring weather on the Atlantic coast already scorching the air as the riders get ready for 2 days of non-stop action. Close enough to Porto to have become part of its greater metropolitan area, Valley de Cambra sits peacefully in the wooded hillsides close to the sea. Two days of competition for the riders lie ahead, and we have 3 types of tests: the traditional forest tracks of Enduro. There's the technical challenge of the extreme section, and the fast open cross test, very similar to motocross. And there are 3 classes, 1, 2 and 3, to make it easy. We'll talk about the difference in a moment, but it's more than just engine capacity that separates them. Reigning Enduro 3 champion Christophe Nambertin has jumped onto the smaller Enduro 1 KTM, and he's having to work hard at adapting his riding style to his new machine.
Yeah, for sure. My start with 300 was cool, and now I need to push more gear with engine. So now my style is a little bit different, but we will see it's a good speed or not.
It's definitely springtime here in Portugal, as you can see, but it's time for the woodlands of the Enduro section to be opened to race bikes. Nambertin on the KTM then, and the Frenchman showed straight away that he was making the switch to the 254-stroke easily enough on the fast sections, but when the going thickened up, he was missing the grunt of the bigger E3 machine to dig him out. Finland's Eero Remes was also on the pace as usual and right up there with the Frenchman after the first couple of trips through the loop of 3 tests. But it was another Frenchman, Jeremy Tarot, in second place on time as they came back to the paddock at the end of the morning. The Sherco rider quite pleased with the way things had been going for him.
Perfect now. I'm, I think, second, so it's okay, I first 2 laps. But now it's more difficult, the last 2 laps. So I hope to finish on the podium. We'll see.
It's rider fatigue and the way that the track's cut up that makes the afternoon harder, of course. Jaume Bertrieux on the sandy surface of the cross test here, but in the middle of the top 10 pretty much everywhere this morning. Tarot, legs, shoulders, all the major muscle groups under attack as he ended day 1 5th. And Anthony Boissiere, a fast time in the extreme test, a couple of good ones elsewhere, and that puts him 9 seconds quicker on the day, 4th at the end of it in E1. Cristobal Guerrero was only 2.5 seconds faster, but that was enough to put the Spanish KTM rider in the top 3 on this first day, and yes indeed, close to the tape and the camera. And he was stylish on the technical stuff as well. He looked good early on, and now Finland's Eero Remes was putting his experience to good use as others tired, and all his best times came in the afternoon. But Nambertin showed a champion's class and reeled off a string of superb rides on all 3 types of test. It's safe to say that he's got the hang of keeping the little bikes wound up full time now, and he's going to be a hard man to beat. The gap between him and second place was the biggest in the top 5. These are the gaps to first place, remember, at the end of day 1.
Was bad, but I am very happy to win finally. After 2 laps was better, and I hope tomorrow make a good day.
This is E2 tackling the same tests, but these are bigger bikes. 252 strokes or 454s, and you'll hear the difference. Antoine Mero, the factory KTM, last year's E1 champion, with a lot more power and torque at his command this year. Johnny Ober beat a factory rider midfield in the morning and seeming to tire as the afternoon wore on. Pierre-Alexandre Rene on the Husky. The bigger bikes needing a different approach in the Enduro and the extreme test to the smaller ones. 2 laps done, and as they come back to the paddock, it's the Husqvarna rider who's in the lead, and he does seem to be liking the technical tests best.
For the moment, it's okay. I'm leading. It's big fight with Antoine Meo, and the race is really difficult in extreme. I think the guy who win will make 4 good laps in extreme.
Lorenzo Santolini ended his first day in 6th on the E2 leaderboard, and there was a huge gap behind him. But up ahead, just 12 seconds separated him from Oriol Mena after a long, hard day. Johnny Ober ended his day in 4th place. He was well clear of Mena. Ahead of him in 3rd, 11 seconds faster after all those tests, Alex Salvini, putting Honda in a strong position for the weekend on a day that wasn't without its problems. Second fastest on the day, winner of 6 out of 12 tests, Pierre-Alexandre Rene was just 4 seconds away from the top spot. Although he always looked to be on it harder, Antoine Meo didn't really hit his stride until the afternoon, and he too won 6 of the day's tests. The leader again, but there's no need to do the maths. This was a two-way fight between last year's E1 champion and E2 runner-up, and the season's only just begun.
Yeah, I start slowly in the morning because I don't want to make so many mistakes. Pela was very fast, so he get some gap directly. After I start to make some mistakes, so I lose the 2nd and 3rd lap. But in last lap I was very hungry, so I start to push and catch him. So that's cool, because we are not battling just for the day, we are battling for the title. So it was very important to win today.
It's E3 now. We're talking 300 two-strokes and 500 fours, and what the bike gives you in extra power, it takes away in the extra strength needed to handle it in sections like this. Matthias Bellino, junior champion a couple of years ago. He took his first podium in Super Enduro over the winter. Here's another Finnish rider, Matti Sestola, really fast starting the day. Fastest in the Enduro test, but struggled to 9th on his 2nd lap of the Extreme. Matt Phillips started there or thereabouts and then started winning as the riders headed towards lunchtime. The Australian heading towards a good result. Ivan Cervantes has won multiple championships in multiple classes, and after a slow start on the first test, he looked to be the class of the morning's field in E3. But not everyone had been enjoying a smooth ride.
The problem is the extreme. They let us only 30 seconds in between each rider, and there is 1 line to go up on the big rapid, and the rider in front of me gets stuck. I was obligated to change my line and came on the left. That was almost impossible to go up, so I get stuck and I lose like 30 seconds, 40 seconds.
Antoine Basset, the Frenchman riding Gas for Pons, into 6th place at the end of the first day, 5 seconds away from 5th. And that was Igar Liop, the TM rider, steady and consistent all through the day. Matti Sestola lost a lot of time on the final extreme test, spoiling what could have been a much better finish for him. Bellino is 3rd today, 25 seconds off 2nd place, and another 25 behind the leader. And And that strong start worked well for Australia's Matt Phillips, and it earned him second place on a day when he was called on to ride hard and delivered a string of first, second and third fastest times all through the middle of the day. But Cervantes was doing the same thing, and he seemed to be able to keep it up for just a little bit longer. It was those quick times late in the day that sealed his victory and gave him a convincing margin at the top of the leaderboard. "28 seconds is a big gap, and especially so when you look at the gap behind Phillips in second place. This was a good day in the office for Cervantes.
I'm very exciting because today is hard to beat Matthew, because he's very fast in the enduro test and also in the cross test. But in the extreme, I make very good lines and I win many seconds there. And I think it's the key of the race is the extreme test.
We'll find out when we do all of that again tomorrow. We're at Valle de Cambra in Portugal, halfway through round 2 of the Maxxis FIM Enduro World Championship. With Jamie McCanny struggling through injury, Loic Larrieux was able to improve on his day 1 performance and end day 2 third in the junior class. Another solid ride from Giacomo Redondi as he found himself on the podium again, although his day wasn't without its moments. A more or less faultless performance from Danny McCanny as he dominated this category from start to finish, and that gave him 4 wins out of 4. The Manxman fastest in 6 of the day's 12 special tests.
First motocross test, I had a big crash where I went over the bars in one of the corners and the throttle actually come off the bars, so I lost a fair bit of time putting that back on. It's probably been one of the toughest world rounds I've ever done, but I've come away with 2 wins. I couldn't ask for any more, really.
Indeed not. But look at how close the consistent Redondi is to the points leader as they leave the Portuguese sunshine. No time to relax. In the 125 youth class, a new winner emerged with Italy's Nicolas Pellegrinelli topping the classification on day 1. Sweden's Mikael Persson taking his debut victory on day 2. Still early in the year, it's still close in the points. Davide Serreca is in the lead, 13 points clear, but the class is wide open with up to 7 riders in with a strong chance of winning the title. Care of the environment is in all our thoughts these days, and this championship is no exception. No one misses the chance to be better users of natural resources.
This is a concern from the teams to protect the environment, the places where the GP goes. The bike mat absorbs all the oils and fuel, so it protects the floors.
Enduro 1 is being dominated by Christophe Nambertin, but there are a number of established riders in the class who could provide some stiff opposition to the Frenchman. However, Nambertin is flying, building up a 36-second lead by the midway point. Into service, so far so good for Nambertin. Jeremy Theroux had set the early pace on day 1, but there was no repeat for the Sherco rider on day 2, where he'd faded. On day 1, he kept things steady on day 2 until the afternoon, and then once again the physical demands of the long days began to show up in little errors like this one. Frenchman caught out with fatigue, playing a big part in this spill. He eventually got going, but his misfortune cost Betriu behind him, the Spaniard unable to avoid hitting the back of the Sherco. Tara eventually complained his second fifth-place finish of the weekend, with compatriot and fellow Sherco rider Anthony Boissiere repeating his fourth place of 24 hours earlier. Boissiere ending the day over a minute off a podium placing. The crash on the first Enduro test of the day was followed by another one on the third extreme test for Cristobal Guerrero. However, the Spaniard pushed hard on laps 2 and 4 and he was rewarded with a third-place finish. Once again, Eero Ramez repeated his best result of the season so far. His quest helped by the fact that he didn't drop the TM at all on day 2 and so was rewarded with runner-up position. There's no doubting Christophe Namatan is settling into the Enduro 1 class. After an unsteady day 1, this was an almost faultless display from the Frenchman, on his way to victory by more than 80 seconds. So let's take a look at the second results board for the E1 class then, and the gaps tell their own story. A minute 20, 6 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds and 6 again. This was definitely Namatan's day.
It was okay, just a little bit tired. It was a hard race. The rally was difficult, and 4 laps it's hard, but now I'm happy. I follow a big fight in E2, and congratulations to Antoine and Pella, because it was very fast today.
Unsurprisingly, the Frenchman tops the points table as well, and interestingly, it's all very close behind him here too. Are we seeing the shape of the season already? The Enduro 2 class is undoubtedly the strongest of the 3 main ones. Last time out in Spain, we had different winners on each day, and this weekend in Portugal, it was even tighter. Oriol Manor had finished day 1 in 5th place. Today, his final finishing position was a consistent 6th, and that result means he will head off to the next round in Greece, 6th in the overall standings as well. As he was in Spain, Jonathan Barragan was much better on day 2, this time a 5th place finish following an 8th 24 hours earlier. After injuring his arm a month ago, Johnny Aubert, still not quite fully fit. The Frenchman had a 4th place finish on day 1. He matched that performance the second time around. Into service halfway through the day, and the pain that was visible on Aubert's face actually couldn't match that of Alex Salvini.
Et lui, il fait 56.
The Italian was having to take 2 pain-killing injections a day just to be able to take part. 3rd place, the Honda rider's reward behind Pella Rene. No victory this time around for the Frenchman following his success in Spain, leading with 2 stages to go. He crashed twice in the cross test, which saw his 12-second lead crumble to dust. Rene's misfortune became Antoine Mayo's good fortune. The championship leader had 2 falls in the extreme test, and it looked like his hopes of victory had gone until the race-deciding penultimate, backed up by some very fast times from the KTM rider. Very tight between 1st and 2nd place then, and after the big gap back to 3rd, it closes up again. Looks like this will be a tough year in E2.
Today was hard for the main, more than the race, because I did a lot of mistakes. I crashed 2 times in extreme. I continued to push, and in the end I arrived to win, so that was very, very important today. It's more than the speed now, because we have the same speed now. It's the main, and who is more strong, I think, wins. So it was very important to win there and to keep the lead.
This is what he's talking about points-wise. Rene 8 points adrift in second, Ober 11 behind that. It's starting to spread out below them, but only a little. It's not been the start of the campaign Joachim Lundgren had been anticipating. Now a lingering injury from Spain caused him to retire early on day 2.
I've been in a lot of pain since I did it in Spain. This morning I tried with more tape and some painkillers, but it's in the head. I'm afraid, so when something happens I don't use the leg because I have pain there, and then I make crashes and not ride normal, so it feels really bad.
Despite Lundgren's despair, there were still plenty of happy faces. Series leader Ivan Cervantes increased his pace as the day went on, and by the midway point he'd built a comfortable advantage.
Ivan, it's going tough.
Yeah, Matthew is in front for little 3 seconds, and I push a lot now in the extreme test, make very good time, and I'm waiting for his time. And well, now I am in the middle of the race, and now it's time to starting to push a little bit more.
Jeremy Joly on his way to a 6th place finish, a result which leaves the French KTM rider 7th in the championship. Matthias Bellino, the only rider on a 500 4-stroke in Enduro 3, and he was disappointed to end the day 5th overall. Riding in front of his home fans, Luis Carrera was tantalisingly close to giving them a podium result. The beta rider was solid throughout the day and eventually missed out on a rostrum position by just 1 second. Matt Phillips had been the early leader until he was passed by teammate Cervantes. The Australian then encountered bike problems at the start of lap 3 of the 4. Later on, he said he'd struggled in the extreme section anyway and felt it was probably that which had cost him the race. Second place, Matti Sestola on the Sherco, the Finnish rider, much more settled than he had been on the previous day, and he said that was due to better lines emerging on the tests. There were no crashes for the Finn as he battled and pushed his way across the Portuguese terrain, eventually passing Phillips on the last extreme test, ending up just a second quicker overall. But there was no catching Ivan Cervantes, who looked to get quicker and stronger as the day went on. By the end of the day, with everyone behind him squabbling over second place, he built up a 17-second margin over Sestola. That makes it 4 wins out of 4 so far this season for the KTM rider, and the Spaniard seemingly on his way to yet another Enduro World Championship title, even at this early stage in the season. Final results then, very close between 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and the big gaps start to appear from 5th downwards, but Cervantes, clearly the class rider again today.
I'm very happy. 4 races, 4 victories. It's an amazing session for me in the moment. I don't have words. For me, it's wonderful. The bike working really good, and the team make a very good job, and it's amazing.
It's a good lead in the points, of course. Australia's Matt Phillips in pursuit, but he'll need to make no mistakes next time out, or the Spaniard will really start to pull away. It's been an interesting weekend here in Valle de Cambra, and it's hard to avoid the feeling that the gauntlet is down in all 3 classes. Who can rise to the challenge? And with that, it's Ate Nastade, Portugal, and Calimera Calambacca in Greece for round 3 in no time at all.